Let me not bind your son with laws I made. Let me not bind your son with laws I made. Your son is free, my father, let me not imagine I have bound him with the laws I made to rule the body. He is not subject to any laws I made by which I try to make the body more secure. He is not changed by what is changeable. He is not slave to any laws of time as you created him. He is as you created him because he knows no laws except the law of love. Let me not bind your son with laws I made. Let me not bind your son with laws I made. Let us not worship idols nor to believe in any law idolatry would make to hide the freedom of the Son of God. He is not bound except by his beliefs. Yet what he is far beyond his faith in slavery or freedom. He is free because he is his father's son. He is free because he is his father's son. And he cannot be bound unless God's truth can lie. And God can will that he deceive himself. Let me not bind your son with laws. Let me not bind your son with laws I made. What is the Christ? Christ is the Son as he created him. Christ is God's Son as he created him. He is the self we share, uniting us with one another and with God as well. He is the thought which still abides within the mind that is his source. He has not left his holy home, nor lost the innocence in which he was created. He abides unchanged forever in the mind of God. Christ is the link that keeps you one with God and guarantees that separation is no more than an illusion of despair, for hope forever will abide in him. Your mind is part of his and his of yours. He is the part in which God's answer lies, where all decisions are already made and dreams are over. He remains untouched by anything the body's eyes perceive, for though in him his Father placed the means for your salvation, yet does he remain the self who, like his Father, knows no sin. Home of the Holy Spirit and at home in God alone, does Christ remain at peace within the heaven of your holy mind. This is the only part of you that has reality and truth. The rest is dreams. Yet will these dreams be given unto Christ, fade before his glory, and reveal your holy self, the Christ to you at last. The Holy Spirit reaches from the Christ in you to all your dreams and bids them come to him to be translated into truth. He will exchange them for the final dream, which God appointed as the end of dreams. For when forgiveness rests upon the world and peace has come to every son of God, what could there be to keep things separate? For what remains to see except Christ's face? And how long will this holy face be seen, when it is but the symbol that the time for learning now is over, and the goal of the atonement has been reached at last? So therefore let us seek to find Christ's face, and look on nothing else. As we behold His glory, will we know we have no need of learning or perception or of time or anything except the Holy Self, the Christ whom God created as His Son. Let me not bind your Son with laws I made. Let me not bind your Son, bind your souls with laws I made. Let me not bind your Son with laws I made. Let me not bind your Son with laws I made. Let me not bind your Son with laws. Let me not bind your Son with laws I made. Your Son is free, my Father, let me not imagine I have bound Him with the laws I made to rule the body. He is not subject to any laws I made by which I try to make the body more secure. He is not changed by what is changeable. He is not slave to any laws of time, He is as you created Him, because He knows no law. He knows no law except the law of love. He knows no law except the law of love. Let me not bind your Son with laws I made. Let me not bind your Son with laws I made. Let us not worship nor believe in any law idolatry would make to hide the freedom of the Son from the freedom of the Son of God. He is not bound except by his beliefs. He is not bound except by his beliefs. Yet what he is far beyond his faith in slavery or freedom. He is free because he is his Father's Son. And he cannot be bound unless God's truth can lie. God's truth can lie. And God can will that he deceive himself. Let me not bind your Son with laws I made. Let me not bind your Son with laws I made. Let me not bind your Son with laws. Let me not bind your Son with laws I made up. Let me not bind your Son with laws I made. Let me not bind your Son with laws I made. Okay, we want to be free of all the beliefs that are not worthy of the Holy Son of God as He created Him. And that's us. Laws that have to do with making our body more secure, they're not needed. Okay, well, thank you all so much for joining me. I'm Miracle Willie, forgiveness teacher from the Ozarks, and we're ready for lesson 277 in A Course in Miracles. We're reading from the version printed by Foundation for Inner Peace this year, here on Thursday, October 3rd of 2024. Let me not bind your Son with laws I made. Your son is free, my father. Let me not imagine I have bound him with the laws I made to rule the body. He's not subject to any laws I made by which I try to make the body more secure. He is not changed by what is changeable. He is not slave to any laws of time. He is as you created him, because he knows no law except the law of love. The law of love. See love everywhere. The law of love. Treat everyone the way you want to treat yourself, because they are yourself. Let us not worship idols nor believe in any law idolatry would make to hide the freedom of the Son of God. He is not bound except by his beliefs, yet what he is far beyond his belief. Yet what he is far beyond his faith in slavery or freedom. He is free because he is his Father's Son, and he cannot be bound unless God's truth can lie. And God can will that he deceive himself. Silliness. Okay, and we sang our associated reading, What is the Christ? Let's go take a look at our text reading now. And we're in The Only Purpose, which is chapter 30, The New Beginning, section 5, The Only Purpose. The real world is the state of mind in which the only purpose of the world is seen to be forgiveness. Catch that. The real world is the state of mind in which the only purpose of the world is seen to be forgiveness. Fear is not its goal, for the escape from guilt becomes its aim. The value of forgiveness is perceived and takes the place of idols, which are sought no longer, for their, in quotes, gifts are not held dear. No rules are idly set, and no demands are made of anyone or anything to twist and fit into the dream of fear. Instead, there is a wish to understand all things created as they really are. And it is recognized that all things must be first forgiven and then understood. Paragraph 2. Here it is thought that understanding is acquired by attack. It is clear that by attack is understanding lost. In the real world, it's understood that by attack, understanding is lost. The folly of pursuing guilt as goal is fully recognized, and idols are not wanted. Therefore, guilt is understood as the sole cause of pain in any form. No one is tempted by its vain appeal, for suffering and death have been perceived as things not wanted and not striven for. The possibility of freedom has been grasped and welcomed, and the means by which it can be gained can now be understood. The world becomes a place of hope because its only purpose is to be a place where hope of happiness can be fulfilled. And no one stands outside this hope because the world has been united in belief. The purpose of the world is one which all must share, if hope be more than just a dream. Paragraph 3. Not yet is heaven quite remembered, for the purpose of forgiveness still remains. Yet everyone is certain he will go beyond forgiveness, and he but remains until he is made perfect in himself. Catch this. Not yet is heaven quite remembered, for the purpose of forgiveness still remains. Yet everyone is certain he will go beyond forgiveness, and he but remains until it is made perfect in himself. He has no wish for anything but this, for forgiveness to be made perfect in himself. And fear has dropped away because he is united in his purpose with himself. There is a hope of happiness in him, so sure and constant he can barely stay and wait a little longer with his feet still touching earth. Yet is he glad to wait till every hand is joined and every heart made ready to arise and go with him. For thus is he made ready for the step in which all forgiveness left behind. For thus is he made ready for the step in which is all forgiveness left behind. Paragraph 4. The final step is God's, because it is but God who could create a perfect Son and share his fatherhood with him. No one outside of heaven knows how this can be, for understanding this is heaven itself. Even the real world has a purpose still beneath creation and eternity. But fear is gone because its purpose is forgiveness, not idolatry. And so is Heaven's Son prepared to be Himself and to remember that the Son of God knows everything His Father understands and understands it perfectly with Him. 5. The real world still falls short of this, for this is God's own purpose, only His, and yet completely shared and perfectly fulfilled. The real world is a state in which the mind has learned how easily do idols go when they are still perceived but wanted not. How willingly the mind can let them go when it has understood that idols are nothing and nowhere and are purposeless. For only then can guilt and sin be seen without a purpose and as meaningless. Paragraph 6. Thus is the real world's purpose gently brought into awareness to replace the goal of sin and guilt, and all that stood between your image of yourself and what you are, forgiveness washes joyfully away. Yet God need not create His Son again, and what is His, that what is His be given back to Him. Yet God need not create His Son again, that what is His be given back to Him. The gap between your brother and yourself was never there. And what the Son of God knew in creation, He must know again, that we're all one. No gap between us. 7. When brothers join in purpose in the world of fear, they stand already at the edge of the real world. Perhaps they still look back and think they see an idol that they want. Yet has their path been surely set away from idols toward reality. For when they joined their hands, it was Christ's hands they took, and they will look on Him whose hand they hold. The face of Christ is looked upon before the Father is remembered, for He must be unremembered till His Son has reached beyond forgiveness to the love of God. You won't remember the Father until you've reached beyond forgiveness. How he used to say it? Let's read it again. For He must be unremembered, for the Father must be unremembered, till His Son has reached beyond forgiveness to the love of God. Yet is the love of Christ accepted first, and then will come the knowledge they are one. 8. How light and easy is the step across the narrow boundaries of the world of fear, when you have recognized whose hand you hold. Within your hand is everything you need to walk with perfect confidence away from fear forever and go straight on and quickly reach the gate of heaven itself. For He whose hand you hold was waiting but for you to join Him. Now that you have come, would He delay in showing you the way that He must walk with you? His blessing lies on you as surely as His Father's love rests upon Him. His gratitude to you is past your understanding, for you have enabled Him to rise from chains and go with you together to His Father's house. Wow. The power of holding your brother's hand. You're holding God's hand, the Christ, that will lead you to the real, even beyond the real world. Isn't that something? The real world's a place of forgiveness, but beyond forgiveness to the love of God. An ancient hate is passing from the world, and with it goes all hatred and all fear. Look back no longer, for what lies ahead is all you ever wanted in your heart. Give up the world, but not to sacrifice. You never wanted it. What happiness have you sought here that did not bring you pain? What moment of content has not been bought at fearful price and coins of suffering? Joy has no cost. It is your sacred right, and what you pay for is not happiness. Be speeded on your way by honesty, and let not your experiences here deceive in retrospect. They were not free from bitter cost. They were not free from bitter cost and joyless consequence. Paragraph 10. Do not look back except in honesty. And when an idol tempts you, think of this, There never was a time an idol brought you anything except the, in quotes, gift of guilt. It's no guilt. It's no gift. Not one was bought except at cost of pain, nor was it ever paid by you alone. And we'll include that in our song at the end. Do not look back except in honesty, and when an idol tempts you, think of this. There never was a time an idol brought you anything except the gift of guilt. Not one was bought except at cost of pain, nor was it ever paid by you alone. Be merciful unto your brother then, and do not choose an idol thoughtlessly, remembering that he will pay the cost as well as you. For he will be delayed when you look back, and you will not perceive whose loving hand you hold. Look forward then. In confidence walk with a happy heart that beats in hope and does not pound in fear. And the last paragraph, 11. The will of God forever lies in those whose hands are joined. Until they joined, they thought he was their enemy. But when they joined and shared a purpose, they were free to learn their will is one. And thus the will of God must reach to their awareness, nor can they forget for long that it is but their own. Okay, let me not bind your son with laws I made. Let's remember that today. Be sure to do your 2 longer practice periods, morning and evening, where you sit in the silence for an extended period of time, telling yourself, let me not bind your son with laws I made. You might look and see what kind of laws you've been making up, thinking you could protect the body, when you don't need to protect the body. The body will take care of itself. You just protect the holiness of your connection with God, with your brothers and sisters. And everything will work fine if you do that. Use forgiveness to point the way, to bring into focus the real world, and then go even beyond it to your reality. Let me not bind your son with laws I made, and then every hour of the day, stop and give thanks every hour of the day. Ask for guidance. Remind yourself, let me not bind your son with laws I made. Okay, I'm sitting in front of my beans. They were on my corn. Let's look how tall that bean grew up that old dead cherry tree. And so I sat at her so you could kind of see my beans. They're Kentucky Wonder pole beans. I'm sitting in the corn patch. The deer knocked it over, and I think the dog helped too. They usually are climbing up them, but they've just kind of laying on the ground all over the place. I mean, they grew up there. And you pick them when they're a little bit immature for a green bean, and you could just let them stay on there until they turn dry, and then you put them in a sack, shake them up real good, break them up, and the beans will fall out in the bottom of the sack, throw all the chaff away. Anyway, you can grow them and they store really good that way. You don't have to can them or anything. But if you want green beans, which you can pick them, pull that string off there. And these don't have a lot of strings on them. But if they do, pull them off. See that string right there? Pull that off and then throw them in your pot and bring them to a boil and put them in your canning jar. Okay, well that's your Kentucky Wonder pole bean. Let me just tell you, since we're doing that first, let me just tell you what it says about the Kentucky pole bean out of Baker Creek heirloom seed, also known as the Old Homestead and the Texas pole. It's a 65-day bean. It's the Phaseolus vulgaris is its scientific name. This homesteader's heirloom, or Kentucky Wonder pole bean, was mentioned in the Country Gentleman magazine in 1864 under the name of Texas pole. It was not until 1877 that it was introduced as Kentucky Wonder by James J.H. Gregory and Son, and has been popular ever since. It is a pole bean with 6 to 8 inch green pods that are very tender when cooked and have a great flavor. In 1896, Peter Henderson and Company said, "This we regard as far ahead of any other green pole bean." They also said it was 10 days earlier than other beans. Okay, so that's your Old Homestead or Kentucky Wonder. I seem to always like to grow Kentucky Wonders. What else does holidays and observances say is going on today? Bring your Bible to school day. Butterfly and Hummingbird Day. Butterflies and hummingbirds. Your hummingbirds need milkweed. As the Asclepias genus, there's Syriaca, the tuberosa, and the incarnata are some species. Hummingbirds do good with bee balm, the monardas, cardinal flower, Lobelia cardinalis, and trumpet honeysuckle, the Lonicera sempervirens, and what else? The columbine, the Aquilegia candensis. Anyway, a lot of things you want to be sure that you let them grow or plant them for your hummingbirds and butterflies. Monarchs particularly need the milkweed. Germany Unity Day. Today they reunified North and South Germany from 1945 till 1990. It was two separate states. Today in 1990. Global Smoothies Day, Latino Women's Equal Pay Day, Look at the Leaves Day, Mean Girls Appreciation Day, Boyfriend Day. We want to look beyond the meanness of word boyfriend and see that they're just hurting, and give them space and treat them the way you'd want to be treated if you were hurting. Caramel Custard Day, Poetry Day in UK, Techies Day, Virus Appreciation Day, and World Temperance Day. World Temperance Day is, basically a push to encourage people not to drink alcohol. And our word for peace is out of Cherokee. I'd like to get this and pronounce it properly. I know I'm pronouncing it properly, but I don't have the good flow to it. So I'm going to do it slow. Nvwadohiyada. Nvwadohiyada. Anyway, that's peace in Cherokee. So, Nvwadohiyada. Let me not bind your son with laws I made. Let me not bind your son with laws I made. Your son is free, my father not. Your son is free, my father. Let me not imagine I have bound him with the laws I made to rule the body. He is not subject to any laws I made by which I try to make the body more secure. He is not changed by what is changeable. He is not slave to any laws of time. He is as you created him because he knows no law. He knows no law except the law of love. Let me not bind your son with laws I made. Let me not bind your son with laws I made. Let us not worship idols nor believe in any laws idolatry would make to hide the freedom of the Son of God. He is not bound except by his beliefs. Yet what he is far beyond his faith in slavery or freedom. He is free because he is his father's son. And he cannot be bound unless God's truth can lie and God can will that he deceive himself. Let me not bind your son with laws I made. Let me not bind your son with laws I made. And our word for peace again out of Cherokee is Nvwadohiyada. Let me not bind your son with laws I made. Nvwadohiyada.